All right, what's up? What's happening? What it do, baby? You are tuned in to another edition of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. It's your boy Xavier, aka X, aka Zay, joined by my brother from another, Kory Blackshear, aka KB. KB, what's going on, bro?
Man, what's happening? What's happening?
Man, we got another NFL Sunday in the books. Week 12 is over with. We saw some good football, but we saw some bad football too. We got a special guest joining us on the show tonight. He's another brother of mine as well. Went to college with this brother, man. Savannah State. We went through those Tigers roars together, going through NASCAR. But his brother's out here doing his thing, man. He has his own podcast with the Players Den podcast. Honestly, like I look up to him at what he's done in the podcast game. Tone's been doing this for about 5 years now, and that thing has grown exponentially. And they built this from the ground up, him and his team over there. And even outside of that, he's getting his name out there in the media space as well. He's covered some Falcons training camps sessions, but more now so, he's been covering some Atlanta Hawks games this season, and he's been in those post game pressers. And bro, I see you, man. I see you in there asking your questions, doing your thing. Just want to give you your flowers, man, because you're not doing this through the standard media way of having to go through journalism to do it, but you're doing it. And like it really says a lot about your passion, your drive, and how much you really care about this, man. So salute to you and everything that you're building and all the success that you're going to continue to have along the way, my brother.
Man, I appreciate that, brother, for real, man. It's like the first time I done heard somebody, just it's just acknowledging what I've been doing. Like you said, I've been doing this 5, 6 years now, and really just getting started, man. Just getting my Hawks credentials this season. Dream come true. Anytime you can get those credentials without having to be like a big media outlet, being able to do it on your own, really, getting your name and your face out there, it's a blessing, man. So I really appreciate that for sure.
Yes, sir. And excuse me for this one. I forgot to even tell y'all the brother's name right then and there because I wanted to make sure I gave him his flowers. Tony Smith Jr., aka Tone. Y'all go follow him, man, on the Players Den podcast on IG. They've got a TikTok page. Shows drop every week, just like we drop here. And the biggest thing that Tone's done that I want everybody to understand is he's built a quality network around him. Like I said, he hasn't done this through the standard journalism way of you go to a newsroom, you get a job, and you just work your way up. No, Tone is out here doing his own thing in other fields while he's also doing this as well. But he's really built a strong network around him. Some of the notable guests that he's had on that podcast, he's had John Abraham on that podcast. Haven't you had Bob Rathman on that podcast too?
Yeah,
The
I had
Hawks
him.
announcer.
I had Bob on about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, Brian Finneran. I try to get a lot of hometown people, man. It feels good to be able to talk to people. Shout out to Bob. He's been the broadcaster for the Hawks for the 30 years now. So him getting his flowers last home game was awesome. But yeah, just building that network, man. Just love networking with people in Atlanta. And John Abraham lives in Atlanta. Michael Jenkins lives in Atlanta. So those are some of the guys that I've had on my show. So
Yeah, again, shout out to you, everything that you're building over there. Let me also take this time to give a shout out to Savannah State and the great
yes,
education that we
sir.
got at Savannah State. I got to do that, Tone, because I was on the air earlier this evening on TV, and Savannah State, if they watched it, they might feel like I slighted them a little bit, but that wasn't the case because I had a chance to cover the Florida Classic this weekend between Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. And I was
Yeah.
talking at 6 o'clock earlier, y'all, about the bands and the battle at halftime. And what I said was nobody does it like the Marching 100 at FAMU. And I
Nah,
literally
there you
said on
go.
TV, Savannah State, I love you with all my heart, but they got it. FAMU is the best
And
band
they
I've ever
do.
heard. But that's not no slight to the powerhouse of the South. I just
Nah,
want to make sure
man.
I recognize
Nah,
that,
man.
Tone and KB. I don't want nobody at SSU hitting me up
Nah,
like you
man.
trait
Nah, man.
like, well,
They know how FAMU get down. They got one of the best fan bases as well. That fan base travels with that team, just like the band. Like they got a big culture around that band at FAMU. So there's no slight, man. We everybody know how it is at that school.
Speaking of slights, I'm probably the only person here on this call who didn't give the Falcons too much of a chance to go to New Orleans and win on Sunday, despite the Saints being a terrible team. But the
Yeah.
Falcons have been awful for the past 5 weeks prior to yesterday. But they went and they got it done in the Big Easy yesterday, defeating the Saints in Week 12 on the road in New Orleans. I think it's been a while since they won in New Orleans too, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a few years, and this was a big win for them. We know that Michael Penix Jr. is not there for the remainder of the season, unfortunately, with that partially torn ACL, having to have surgery. We send our prayers up for him. Hopefully he's able to recover from that, but that's scary because this is his third ACL tear, and I think it really puts his future in question. But the offense, they woke up a little bit for the most part, right? I would say that Kirk Cousins, he was able to keep the ship steady. I would have loved to see them give Bijan the ball more, but the defense showed up and they came to play, KB. And that was the thing I really was looking for, because I was starting to question, has the defense quit on this lowly offense? But talk about your birds really quickly, KB, because I know you were a happy man with everything yesterday, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I was happy. I think that Kirk Cousins presents a little bit of a different type of quarterback style than Michael Penix. I think that he's a better natural passer of the ball than Penix is. I think Penix, while he has a great arm, his mechanics sometimes leave a lot to be, questioned. So, and I think that you saw also with like Darnell Mooney. I think Darnell Mooney has, over the course of last season, he built that chemistry with Kirk Cousins. So that was something that Penix didn't get a chance to have with Darnell Mooney, especially with him being injured in the offseason. So I think that you are right on one thing. I do think that Bijan has to get the ball more. You get 60 yards at halftime, you know, he needs to be in that McCaffrey type of range where he should be touching the ball at least 6 to 8 times a drive, if not more, depending on the length of the drive. So I think that the defense, came through plenty yesterday. One of the unsung heroes was Devon Diablo coming back. I think that he solidifies that defense. I think that we missed a lot of him being out. Even him at 50% is still better than, not having him on the field at all. I think that he provides a presence in that linebacking core that, along with Caden Ellis, they're as the best as you can get in the league. So I think that it was a great win. I just want to see where they build off of this now, because like I said, the offense still isn't all the way there. We see there's still room for improvement. But I like to see more of getting Bijan and Tyler Algier more carries instead of putting the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands so much. Like, we know he's a proven passer in this league, but when you got two thoroughbreds behind you, you got to feed them. You have to utilize them in that offense, and they have to alternate, sort of in the way I've talked to you about it before, with the way that Montgomery and Gibbs, how they are like 1A, 1B, depending on who has the hot hand. That's how they're utilized. And I think that the Falcons can, learn from that and utilize them in a similar way, not the exact same, but in a similar way where we can get Bijan hopefully up to for anywhere between 15 to 20 carries a game, and also involve him in the passing game, and the same with Tyler Algier.
Look, bro, I'm with you on that. We basically feel like we've been banging our heads against the wall all season, saying that they need to give Tyler and Bijan the ball more. So we'll see if that continues to happen. But Tone, I want to bring it over to you, bro, because you have been very vocal throughout this season on social media about how you feel about how this team is going. Whether it's Raheem, whether it's Terry, whether it's how the team is actually playing out there with the players. Zach Robinson, you and KB got this in common. Y'all both want Zach Robinson on the first thing smoking out the A. Even after yesterday, because the offense, they didn't give you a spectacular performance. There's still a lot that can be had from that. But I think one of the things that some Falcons fans lose sight of when it does come to Kirk Cousins, when he was healthy for the most part last year, his first 9 games, they did go 6-3. So do you believe that he can possibly take them on a run, Tone, or was this simply just the Saints, and do we need to calm down?
Um, First of all, I'm glad the Falcons beat the Saints. I don't care what the record is. I don't care what we stand. We went to New Orleans, we won that game. Second of all, that team had 2 wins. I'm not going to jump on the wagon of the Falcons can win 7 straight and get to the playoffs. Yeah, I joke around with it because what do our fan base have right now? We don't have the wins. We don't have the star quarterback that we thought we was going to have. The Kyle Pitts, we thought Kyle Pitts was going to really show up this year. This was the perfect game for Kyle Pitts to just come out and show people that he can be a dominant force. I'm not gonna blame a lot on Kirk Cousins. Yes, he threw a pick six, but I want to put that on Kyle Pitts a little bit. That guy does not play with a high energy. He is not a high energy player. I just don't see how this guy can really come out this season and ask for a lot of money. I just don't get it. But I thought Kyle Pitts was going to have a big game. 2 catches is insane when Drake London is missing the game and he catches about 10 catches a game. So where did that leave? Mooney was going to step up with Kirk Cousins. That's Kirk Cousins' guy. We know what he did. Mooney was 1,000-yard receiver last year. Kirk Cousins did that. You know what I'm saying? So I expected the offense to bring a little more. Bijan averaged 5 yards a carry. I would have gave it to him. Give him the ball. I don't understand why this gentleman is under 15, 20 carries a game. He's a star. You don't see that from any other team doing that with their stars. I love Tyler Algier, but he should not be a focal point in the offense when you got this star running back. I love Tyler. It's just a lot of stuff that Zach Robinson, it's a lot of growing pains. I do think this would be his last time being an offensive coordinator. I just horrible. I mean, no halftime adjustments. He never come out and it's just like a different Zach Robinson offense. It's either starting off at the beginning of the game to halftime and then it rolls over, or we just don't get anything from these guys. And you've seen it against the Panthers, 30-0. We seen what this offense looks like when it's time for Zach Robinson to really dial up play calling. I'm sick of it. Shout out to Zane Gonzalez for making his kicks. It's a sigh of relief to see a kicker be able to kick a 55-yarder and just make it 52-yard. Just make it, and then we kick the ball off. But this team, it's a lot of growing pains. I'm not expecting this team to win 7 games. I'm not expecting them to beat Seattle. I'm not expecting them to beat the Bucks. The Bucks is their Achilles heel. I've seen it. We've seen it. And I just don't know if I want to trust Kirk Cousins yet. I want him to be good. I want this team to jump over the hall and win these games, but it's just not realistic seeing what we've seen in the past this season. It's tough. I'm a big fan of Atlanta, but it's just hard to say, yeah, we're gonna go out here and just win these games and we're supposed to. Um, Baker's hurt. He's not that hurt. His X-rays came back today. Nothing was bad. And I was kind of expecting, and I don't want to say expecting, but I was expecting Baker to sit. I don't think he's sitting. He know what's online. I think the Panthers are playing 49ers tonight. That game was pretty tight when I was watching that game earlier. Panthers are serious right now. That's a serious team. Falcons are in 3rd place. That is embarrassing. In this weak division, the Falcons are 3rd. So I don't know where we go from this. I would love to see them win games, but I just don't have the faith in this team right now to just say, yeah, they're going to go out and just win the games they're supposed to win, because they really don't do that. So that's my take on that.
Hey, Tom and X, I'm gonna just say this. That's a true Atlanta Falcons mindset. Like, from a fan standpoint, we can never get too comfortable just because we've seen it. We've seen it year in and year out. Just when we get a glimpse of hope, and I'm glad he put it in perspective. This was a 2-win team that we did this to. While there are rivals, let's not forget the Saints aren't expected to be good. They're not trying to necessarily win.
These are not exactly the Drew Brees and Sean Payton years anymore.
No. And I think that what he's also alluding to is the offense still is mundane. It's very boring and it's very methodical at that point. So you're looking at it and you're like, okay, the amount of talent, because I've seen teams with far less do far more than the Falcons have. I think that another thing that I did want to add on to, I think that we need a couple of people that are in this fan base to calm down about the whole not having a first round pick because James Pierce is that dude. James Pierce is that dude. Let's not get him mistaken. We seen what he can do. We seen what Jalen Walker can do. Everybody can calm down about the first round pick because the only thing that you could expect is to hopefully get a talent next year that was worth something that was even equivalent to what James Pierce is. James Pierce is going to be a great pass rusher in this league. I don't have any doubts about that. And just from what I've seen, it was worth the investment. And the only real reason why people are having like the conversation about we don't have a first round pick is because we were bad this year. Had we been at least, halfway decent, nobody would have been clamoring about that first round pick because it wouldn't have mattered as much.
So here's another reason I think they're clamoring about a first round pick to at least some of the Falcons fans I've talked to. You don't know if Michael Penix is your actual long-term answer at quarterback. Now, I wouldn't be crying about necessarily trying to get a quarterback in this upcoming draft to begin with anyway, because we all got sold a bad bag of lemons about this. We were told that Arch and Drew Aller and Carson Beck going to Miami, all of that's going to change everything. You wouldn't draft any of those three guys I just named. The two top quarterback prospects expected to come out are Dante Moore at Oregon and Fernando at Indiana. Nobody knew who they were before the start of this season. So I wouldn't be crying too much if I'm a Falcons fan who's looking at the quarterback situation about that. But I do want to ask y'all about Penix's future because, like I said before, this is a third ACL tear basically. Even though this one was a partial one, it's still a third one that's happened. Do you have concerns long term that he can actually be the answer? Because I don't know if it's Zach Robinson's offense or what, but sometimes he just looks uncomfortable in the pocket.
Well, Penix came out last week in the press conference, and I know y'all all heard it when he was like, I don't have anybody to rely on the sideline. Nobody comes and talk to me after a bad play or a good one. Nobody comes and gives him any type of feedback. That was so shocking. That let me know how they value this young man. I don't have to, I can sit back and look at that press conference and be like, well, they don't value him either. We're in the same boat. Everybody in the same boat. They know Penix is not going to be the guy. I think Raheem, Terry, Rich McKay, Arthur Blank, they have sat down and they have talked about Michael Penix's future. And we know this has been the conversation. This is a business at the end of the day. We look at it as entertainment. Us media guys look at it as in a business perspective aspect. But these guys are looking at that aspect every Sunday, every Thursday, every whatever game they plan, they're looking and they're evaluating. And they know in their heart that he's not the guy. And that's why it was so easy to be like, okay, let's sit him out. Let's put Kirk in. Let's see if Kirk can do something this game. And then Kirk didn't look too good. And then Penix get hurt. Kirk out there. Kirk win a game. Now you gotta now hypothetically, if Kirk do rip off a couple of wins, he may win 4 or 5 wins. Now you're thinking like, okay. So this veteran quarterback didn't play well this year. He was hurt last year. He was playing well, got hurt last year. Lost his spot. And I came in this season with the mindset of Kirk is healthy. Let's see if Kirk can do it. Well, I went to training camp. I went to training camp first day. The first day Mooney broke his collarbone when they were trying to cover that up. I saw that play as well with Billy Bowman Jr. But Kirk looked better in training camp. He had a better ball in training camp. And I went on the show and said Kirk looks healthy. Kirk like he looks like his old self. And Penix was kind of struggling a little bit, and I was like, damn. And then Penix didn't play in preseason, and that was another thing. Why didn't this guy play in preseason? This guy is not okay. So he's your franchise guy. I've seen franchise quarterbacks play in preseason, a couple of drives, one drive, hell, a couple of plays. Penix don't play a down. He don't play any preseason. This is a new offensive line. You got a new center. You got a new center. Communication is everything. Well, we've seen that communication a little off this year a little bit. So I just don't know if they put Penix in the right situation. Did they help him become the leader of this team? And like I said, after watching that press conference last week, I just don't think so.
I feel you on that. And Tone, you basically took some of the words out of my mouth on that because I was about to throw it to KB, and I'll still do this. That was one of the most glaring things about the Falcons coming into the season. The fact that Penix, for a second straight preseason, didn't take any snaps in any of the preseason games. So, Tone, I'm kind of with you on this one. That they've already sat down and they've decided his future. Even though 3 of those 4 people that you named right there, I think all of them need to be gone after this year anyway. But KB, if that really is the case, who is possibly the long-term answer at quarterback? And I ask that because are you now looking towards 2027 and seeing what that college class is going to be like? Because I have a theory about the Minnesota Vikings and what I think they're going to end up doing long-term at quarterback. We'll discuss that in a bit, but I want to see where you're going with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you almost have to because I don't feel like they're completely sold on Penix right now. And, it's kind of hard not to be with the injury history. Like, I don't think people understand. It's hard to tear your ACL once and come back. He's done it multiple times in both knees, and it's just unheard of for a guy this young to have gone through the type of things that he's gone through this early in his career. So I'm completely with y'all on the whole not taking any snaps in the preseason. I think that was crazy. I think that's ridiculous. And part of that was also things that we saw a little bit towards the end of last season when he did start a few games. Timing. If we see a couple of these balls get away from him because of the timing, he don't have that timing. He ain't developed that continuity with his receivers because he hasn't been out there. It's different taking reps in practice and training camp than taking in-game reps. That's the time for you to do those in-game reps is during preseason so that you can develop that relationship with these guys. You know exactly the placement that you need to have these balls. You develop that kind of stuff with guys like Kyle Pitts, guys like Drake London, guys like Darnell Mooney who need it. They all need it. But the fact that you got basically a first-year starter who hasn't played in 2 preseasons, I just don't really understand how you get away with that. Now, personally, I look at 2027 as more of I say a loaded class, but we all know that coming into a season, the names pop out, the performance just might not be there all the time. Like we saw that this year in college football, it just wasn't a great year for the quarterbacks that were supposed to dominate college football this year. Like it hasn't been good. And so I'm kind of like also looking at free agency. I'll tell you one name that was kind of like he showed me something on Sunday, and that showed me he could still be a starting quarterback in this league. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston showed that he can still do things that you look at from a starting quarterback standpoint that would get somebody excited. Because one thing we can say about Jameis Winston, he knows how to move the ball down the field, and he gives his receivers an opportunity to make a play. Now, even if that's not your I'm not saying that's like a long-term solution, but he gives you an opportunity to win a few games while you're trying to get someone like Penix healthy if Kirk Cousins is no longer going to be there. Now, I look at the 2027 class. I mean, we'll see. I don't have a name right now that stands out, that just jumps out at me right now for the Falcons' future quarterback. But I do think that Penix's time is going to be contingent on how he comes back after this injury. Do the Falcons believe in him enough to, want him to be their long-term solution at quarterback? And honestly, I just need to see what this team's direction is because you bring in a whole new coaching staff, they may want to go a completely different direction. And I wouldn't blame them because what you've been doing hasn't been working the past, 2 years. You've had both of your quarterbacks have been banged up in back-to-back years. So they may want to go a completely different direction. I wouldn't be mad if they did because, honestly, the Falcons need a culture shift, honestly. So,
yeah, that culture shift needs to be somebody who's going to come in and say, get Bijan the ball. That's honestly where it needs to start. We're going to wrap it up with the Falcons on that one. We're going to wrap it up with the Falcons on that one because there's another team that we've been questioning what they've been doing at the quarterback all season long. Maybe they've got their answer now. Maybe. We hope they do if they know what they're doing. And that would be Shedeur Sanders winning his first NFL start, going out to Vegas, showing out for the most part on a couple of those throws that he made. It wasn't a perfect start. It wasn't a great start, but I will at least give it a B to a B plus type of performance, fellas, because he did something that they haven't been able to do for the past couple of years now. He really moved that ball down the field. Like, he honestly should have had 2 passing touchdowns in that game. The 53-yarder where the receiver fell down on the 1-yard line, that should have ended up being a touchdown. And then, of course, he did end up getting the touchdown later in the game, too. He also threw an interception. He's a rookie. That's going to come with growing pains. But I'm glad to see that he got his shot. That ends a 7-game losing streak for the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur is the first Browns starting quarterback to win his first game since Xavier in 1995. It's been 30 years since they had a starting quarterback start in his first game and go out there and win for. Look, that just goes to tell you how dysfunctional, and I'm running out of adjectives at this point to describe that situation, Tone, because, like, KB, we read this last week. Shedeur is the 42nd starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns since 1999. That just goes to tell you where the state of that organization has been since they came back into the NFL after Art Modell moved the original Cleveland Browns to Baltimore and they became the Ravens. And we see what they've done in their time. But he has also been named the starter going forward. He will start on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. KB, let me start off with you. Your thoughts on what Shedeur did on Sunday.
I mean, I like what he did. I know that a lot of people are going to make it about the defense, but the defense has been playing lights out all year. This just tells me that a couple of those games they could have won if they had some type of decent quarterback play. So, no, I'm not going to give Stefanski any credit for this because now you look even crazier for not giving your team a shot to win a couple of these games. You lost a game against the Jets where their starting quarterback threw for 54 yards. It was probably about 50-something yards. So that just tells me that you had a chance to win a couple of these games. But even when it came to him in the presser saying, "Oh, I'm not ready to name a starting quarterback yet." What exactly are you looking for to see? Because Shedeur, while he didn't have the greatest game, he gave them a hell of a lot of better chance to win that game than Dylan Gabriel has given them all season. Like, I don't care. See, I don't get into the narratives of the NFL. I just want to know, do you give us the best chance to win? And every indication points that he does give them the best chance to win. If it wasn't for a Jerry Jeudy fumble on one of those drives, if it wasn't for, a receiver going down at the 1-yard line, we looking at him having a multiple touchdown game in his first career start. That's why I think that Stefanski has a level of stubbornness, because it's also like they're also trying to show Shedeur wasn't their pick. He wasn't their guy. And so now it's looking like, well, if he goes out there and dominates and he gives us a chance to win, he rattles off a couple of wins. Now we look even worse because we almost probably could have had a chance to be in the race for this division had we gave him a shot sooner. Because he's looked better than Flacco did this season. He's looked better than Gabriel did this season. And it's not close. That 55-yard bomb that he made on the run was probably one of the best throws I've seen this season from any quarterback. Because there's not a lot of guys that can make that throw. And so, even Myles Garrett, you could tell that he was even more amped up. Like, you didn't see the same level of frustration from him knowing that his offense gave them pretty much a good shot to win that game. That's all you can pretty much ask for, is your offense to give you a shot to win the game. And Shedeur gives you that opportunity. So I'm on to see more, from him. I think that the sky's the limit for him. He can only improve. And I think that if the Browns are going to continue to seem like maybe sabotage him, then I just hope that he gets an opportunity somewhere else, because honestly, I'm sick of the culture that the Browns have built over the course of our lifetime. I think Stefanski is, he is what he is at this point. I mean, we've already talked about it, but I think that if he's going to continue to be successful while he is still the head coach of the Browns, he has to just put Shedeur out there and let him go and make his mistakes and, trial by fire. This is where we're at with him right now. And I think Shedeur, he continues to get those reps. You'll continue to see the improvement.
I agree with you on that 100%. You didn't bring this point up, but I feel like we got to bring it up before I toss it to Tone on this one. One of the things that people were griping about yesterday is that Kevin Stefanski did not give him a game ball. And somebody who is in the know in Cleveland, whether he's a beat reporter or he's somebody who's really around the team a lot as a media personality of some sort, he clarified that Dylan Gabriel also did not get a game ball after his first start either. So I think it's important to include that small piece of information in there with that. Just optics wise, I feel like it's important that we put that in there for people. But Tone, I do want to throw it to you on this one too, because KB brought it up. Myles Garrett finally looked happy with what he saw the offense doing on Sunday. Remember earlier this season after a game, Myles Garrett, he was being interviewed and he was frustrated. And what he said was along the lines of, I'm tired of losing games every single week the same exact way. We knew who that was directed towards. That was directed towards Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns offense. He looked happy out there yesterday for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. Even after they lost last week, he was still optimistic. He was like, he's a young guy. You got to get some growing pains. I think Myles Garrett is happy that Shedeur is playing. I mean, I think the world is. First of all, they you know how they did him. He wasn't a first round pick. Should have been a first round pick with the class that he was in. You see the guys that went in front of him. What are they doing? But I'm happy for him. Like you said, that bomb he threw, that guy should have scored on that. That was a touchdown throw. Over the show. I mean, what a damn throw by Shedeur. I think that's gonna be one of the top plays this week. I wish the guy would have scored. It could have been the number one play this week. But I'm happy. I was a little on the fence that he didn't get the game ball. I mean, it's a young black quarterback. You want to build your guys up. And I think Dylan should have got one too. You want to build your quarterback up, man. Without your quarterback, you missing that big piece of the pie. So I'm expecting Shedeur. Like I said, they came out. He was the starter today. Moving forward, I was happy for him because he deserved it. One thing I did notice is, he's been the third string all year. So he been playing with scout team. He ain't been playing with those starters. So you gotta give him some grace when it comes to him really learning that offense and getting, the main weapons, of the ball. Jerry Jeudy, this whole year has been a disaster for that young man. Dropping game balls to win the game, just dropping catches in general. Then he fumbles. I just don't know what happened to Jerry Jeudy. This is an Alabama guy. A lot of those Alabama receivers just don't look bad as this guy's look this season. So I'm expecting him to help Shedeur. I'm glad Deshaun Watson was on the sideline this weekend. That was big because he's supposed to be their franchise quarterback who just failed miserably. We ain't even got to talk about the stuff he's been through in the last 3 or 4 years. But for him to be there, having Shedeur back, man, that's big. I'm happy. Maybe the Browns found their franchise guy. This guy wants to win. He's hungry. Great speeches. He's a team player. His team is happy. I'm expecting Shedeur to have some success next year. You just got to get him some talent. You got to get him another receiver. We know what David Njoku can do over there. And they got Quishon Junk. I think he had 2 touchdowns that game. So I mean, Brown's on the up and coming. You just gotta. I think Stefanski got to get up out of there though. It's time for him to get up out of there. I know we always say fire the Browns head coach, but I mean they're just not picking great candidates, man. You got to go get somebody who really want to win, man. You got to go. Maybe I don't know. I don't know who's out there, like a Cliff Kingsbury. You bring him in and let him with Shedeur, let him open up that offense because Shedeur got a damn arm, man. He can throw that ball 70 yards with ease. So you may need to go get him a quarterback coach, kind of head coach, to really let him show his talent. Because I just don't know what it'd be with that head coach that's now with the Browns. Like, will he be there? Like, will Shedeur be a starting candidate for them next year? So But like I said, I'm happy. I'm happy with Shedeur. That was a good game. You know, Vegas was against him off rip. And he
Yeah, one of the things that
you know,
caught me off guard, KB, was the fact that Shedeur was not on the field during Cleveland's first two touchdowns. They got him down in the red zone, and they decided to line up Quinshawn Judkins in the Wildcat formation. I just thought that was a little crazy.
Yeah, I did too. And like I said, like I know it kind of seems like we're just nitpicking at certain things that Stefanski does, but I don't even like what he says to the media because it kind of seems like he has like this. Remember, we've talked about this before about like it seemed like a personal vendetta against Shedeur. And I know a lot of people saying like, "Oh, well, we don't usually talk about fifth round picks like this." That's just the thing. He's a fifth round pick with first round talent. That's the problem while we're talking about Shedeur. I think Stefanski has a level of arrogance to him because also he's trying to kind of show Shedeur in a sense like this is my team, we're gonna do it my way, and Dylan Gabriel is my guy, not you. And I know that may not have a lot to do with necessarily the two touchdown drives where, he lined up Quinshawn Judkins in the Wildcat, but it does go to show that, even when we're talking about the game ball situation, the way I look at it is this: as amazing as Myles Garrett is, Myles Garrett has done this year in, year out. Now I understand him breaking the record, but how do you not give your rookie quarterback who goes on the road in his first career start and plays well and gives you an opportunity to win? I don't see how you can honestly make a case for anybody else. It was kind of like, hey, good job. All right, now moving on to the other people. Like I seen him give more praise to the punter for pinning for pinning the opposing team in their own territory than giving Shedeur more love in that post game speech. That's the reason why I feel like it's personal. Like I know people are gonna say, well, what do you want to give him a cookie? I've seen him give more praise to Dylan Gabriel for doing literally nothing out there than what he gave to Shedeur. Because I don't care what anybody can say. I'm not in that locker room, but I guarantee those wide receivers, tight ends, running backs feel way more comfortable with him being on the field than Dylan Gabriel. I'm not even trying to just like stir up anything, but I really feel like that this is one of those situations where we can honestly look at it and say, maybe his organization is trying to sabotage him because at this point it doesn't seem like that they're rooting for him to win or be successful because it makes them look even less competent at their jobs because he was not thrusted into that position sooner. So I'm looking at Stefanski. You are going to get fired at some point. I don't know when. I know it's going to probably be at the end of the season, but you are going to get fired, and you deserve to for the simple fact that you let your own level of arrogance keep you from being competitive. That to me, we talked about coach malpractice. That's coaching malpractice right there.
That's beyond coaching malpractice. And you are right. He is going to get fired at some point. He might save himself until the end of the season because I was saying in a group chat yesterday, if Kevin Stefanski decides to start Dylan Gabriel on Sunday against the 49ers after what Shedeur just did, breaking that 7-game losing streak, and Dylan Gabriel goes out there and loses, they need to pack all of his stuff up in a 5-gallon trash bag, put it outside his door, and just have it waiting for him when he gets ready to go back to his former office. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the case now, but you're absolutely right. There's going to be a change there. I don't know who's going to end up coming there and taking the job, but it's an interesting situation that's brewing there in Cleveland all the way around. Guys, let's go ahead and get to some quick hitters here really quickly. I'm going to stay in the NFL with this one. Kansas City completing the comeback against the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. That was a big win for the Chiefs. They needed that because if they had failed at 5-6, their playoff hopes really would have took a dive at that point. And You're asking a lot at that point to be able to run the table the rest of the way, considering that you got to go to Dallas on Thursday on a short week. You still got the Broncos left. You still got the Chargers left. I don't know what Chargers team is going to show up because they're not the same team without Joe Alt. And obviously, they've been without their other tackle, Rashawn Slater, for the entire season anyway. They're not the same without those guys. But big win for them. I believe they showed that don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion. That's what I believe they put on display, especially in that fourth quarter and overtime. And KB, we talked about this back in October when things were still riding high for the Colts. And Tone, I know you talked about it on your show some too. All of y'all who were drinking the Daniel Jones Kool-Aid, we tried to tell y'all, look, let this thing continue to play out. We need to see if this really is the real deal or if this was just a nice little 5 minutes of fame in Shane Steichen's offense, basically, because Shane Steichen is one of the elite play callers in this game. That is who Jalen Hurts had his best season as a quarterback under statistically. But fellas, your thoughts on Kansas City's win?
Hell of a win. They just like they scrambling, but this is a team who they win by any means. And when they win by any means, it's scary because when they get it figured out, it's a problem. Rashee Rice coming back was just like a stepping stone. I've been seeing Travis Kelce rejuvenating his career. He's been over 50 receiving yards for the last 6 games. So I mean, the defense is playing better. You remember Chris Jones at the beginning of the year was arguing with the whole team. He was a bad teammate. Well, now he's the ultimate captain on that defense again, and they're figuring it out, man. And it's like the Chiefs are figuring it out, and the Bills are like, it's like both of them won't be there this year, and that'd be the first time in a long time where I don't think both of these franchises will be in the playoffs looking pretty. I think everybody's figuring out the Bills. I think people figured out the Chiefs, but they're just smarter. Patrick Mahomes is just a hell of a quarterback, a better quarterback, and you can do more with him. Josh Allen, I'm not saying he's not a hell of a quarterback. It's like once you figure him out, man, it's like it's cooked for the game. It's cooked. He don't have that will that Pat Mahomes have, and he don't have the gold over there either, man. He don't have Travis Kelce. And I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to probably win out. This team is known for just winning games, and I think they're going to figure it out. Hell of a win though.
KB, one of the big moments for me in that game was when Kareem Hunt had the turnover he had, and Travis Kelce goes over to him and he basically shakes him. He says, "No, we need you." And he got his head back into the game. You saw Chris Jones hyping the crowd up. That just felt like one of those moments where, all right, this is where champions come to play. I mean, your thoughts on what we saw yesterday? And believe me, we're going to talk about what the Colts did in just a moment, too, because that wasn't good.
Well, yeah, I think that yesterday was just basically you can't put a number or a price tag on experience. Like being in those type of games, just finding a way to win, that just showed like they were gritty. Like it was more grit than anything I seen yesterday because the offense didn't look pretty for a good portion of the game. They didn't. They had their moments where they made certain plays, but they didn't look pretty, especially early on in that game. I think that with the Chiefs, they're always going to be a dark horse, like especially this year. Not necessarily a dark horse, but this year I feel like that they aren't as loaded as they usually have been in the past. Like we have a couple of contenders this year, and then we got a couple of pretenders. I'm still waiting to see if that's going to be the Colts, if they're going to fall in that pretenders category. But I think that the Chiefs, their championship experience, their mold that they have built over there over the past couple of years with Andy Reid, I think that they have their core is one that you can put up against anybody. The core of Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes. If you want to include Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy in their core now because they have that championship experience, you can do that. Then you have guys like Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie on the defense, Chris Jones on the defense that pretty much bring it all in together. Their leaders are some of the best leaders in the NFL. Now, when you talk about Indianapolis, on the other hand, they don't have that experience. They don't have the type of, I'll say, grit from being in those type of games because they haven't had the experience. Like, I think that Daniel Jones, while he's been a great story, you see he's kind of coming back down to earth. It started with that Atlanta game because Daniel Jones made a couple of throws in that Atlanta game that were really good. But then we started to see when the turnovers came out, we saw the real Daniel Jones that we've been accustomed to seeing over the years. Like, we saw what he usually is. Now, this is where I'm going to look at Indianapolis. What are you going to do in the playoffs when teams are going to continue to stack that box and make it impossible for Jonathan Taylor to just run free like he's been doing all season? What are you going to do when you're going to make Daniel Jones have to play that quarterback position like a Pat Mahomes or a Josh Allen or even a Justin Herbert? What are you going to do when he has to drop back 30, 40 times a game and go win you a game? Are you ready to see what that looks like on a national stage? That is what I'm waiting to see, is if he can actually be that type of player. I don't think so. This is just my opinion from what I've seen. I don't think so because we already know the playoffs is a different monster. And we know that defense ramps up in the playoffs. This is just known facts. So what Daniel Jones has to be able to do with these last few weeks, he has to be able to, they have to give him more of the keys because I think that we know what Jonathan Taylor is. We need to see what Daniel Jones is because he's still a question mark in my eyes because I haven't seen him do it on a consistent basis long term. So I need to see more from him. I think that, the Colts had their opportunities to put the game away and they squandered a few of those opportunities. But overall, that was a great win by the Chiefs. I mean, just to fight, continue fighting because, like I said, it wasn't pretty the whole game, but it was, the heart of a champion can't be questioned.
I'm going to close out this quick hitter simply by saying this. The Colts may already be having buyer's remorse on giving multiple first-round picks up to trade for Sauce Gardner. Because the only reason you do that is if you know that you have your franchise quarterback in the building. And everybody already still had questions about Daniel Jones if he was the best long-term option for them. Now they're kind of stuck in that situation right now. Unless they absolutely decide to blow it up and do what the Minnesota Vikings did. And speaking of them and their situation, fellas, I'm sorry, I just got to say it like this. J.J. McCarthy stinks. That was awful, what we saw on Sunday in Green Bay.
Most definitely stink.
87 passing yards. Fellas, he has Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. This man has one of the best receiving corps on paper in the league, and all they mustered up was 87 yards passing with that. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Green Bay Packers defense because they showed up and they did their job yesterday. But he also threw two of the worst interceptions that I've ever seen a quarterback throw to. He threw them literally right into the hands of the DBs that intercepted those passes. This is a failed experiment, and I know there's people out there who are going to say, come on, you got to give it time. It's his first full year. He hasn't been healthy the whole season. No, this is done. They made a huge mistake not signing Sam Darnold back. I know Sam Darnold in the last two most important games of the season last year, he regressed a little back into the Sam Darnold that we saw with Carolina and the Jets. But look at what he's doing in Seattle right now. Were there not feelings that he could have at least came back to Minnesota and did the right thing? And I feel awful for Justin Jefferson because he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He has probably some of the best receiving talent we've ever seen a receiver have in our lifetime. And if you look at what he's produced the past 3 games through no fault of his own, you wouldn't be able to convince anybody of that who's never watched Justin Jefferson play. So they have done him and that receiving corps so dirty because this is what you committed to, a project at quarterback. And I'll just pose the question that I posted on my Instagram story yesterday. How did Jim Harbaugh win the national championship with J.J. McCarthy as his quarterback. I know they had a spectacular defense. I know Blake Corum and company did a great job running the football, but still at some point you need your quarterback to play well for you.
I'll go ahead and answer that short answer. The Big Ten is the reason why he was able to do that. When you don't have to play anybody but Penn State and Ohio State on a yearly basis, you can kind of get away with a couple of things. When you got a great running back behind you, yeah, you can kind of, a great defense behind you, yeah, you can get away with a couple of things. I think that, yeah, I mean, put in plain English, he stinks. And I know a lot of people made so much about him at the beginning of the year. Y'all remember that game where he led a comeback against the Chicago Bears and everyone was going crazy about it? And everybody was just like, oh, man, the Vikings may have found their quarterback. I was never convinced. I have not seen one game where he's looked super impressive. And I think that if they win games, it's in spite of him, not because of him. I think that Brian Flores has to have his defense humming every single game just to give them a shot to win. But it's not even to his fault of his defense, because if you're out there consistently because your offense can't generate any type of momentum or movement, then this is what you'll see. They laid an absolute stinker out there at Lambeau, but it's, what can you do when your quarterback looks like he's seeing ghosts out there on a consistent basis? He doesn't have the tool. He never really in college had the tools that I felt like he needed to have to be a starting quarterback. But that just goes to show you a lot of people who scout aren't necessarily great evaluators of talent as well. Because the same guys that told you that Shedeur was a 5th round talent told you that McCarthy was a 1st round talent. And these are not, they're just not. It's just not equatable to the, like, what did you all see in college to, formulate that opinion about J.J. McCarthy? I don't really get it. I never understood the hype around him. I think that people use the barometer of team success to warrant this quarterback is ready. He didn't make any spectacular throws in college. I watched these guys. I watched Michigan play. In his tenure at Michigan, there was not one or a couple of games I could say this guy is going to be a starter in the NFL for years to come. I don't see it. I don't see him being a starter at all. He doesn't even look good enough right now to be a lot of teams' backups. That's just the God's honest truth. And I just don't think he has the intangibles to be a starting level quarterback. I'm just going to keep saying that. I just don't see it.
Well, we talked about this after week 1, KB. We gave him props for completing that comeback against Chicago, but we both made it very clear, hey, this doesn't sell me on him being the long-term option for them at quarterback. Now I want to go ahead and give y'all my theory that I told you that I had earlier in the show in terms of what I think the Vikings are going to do at quarterback for 2027. You ready for this? I think that Arch Manning is going to be the Vikings quarterback in 2027. I think they are going to draft him. That's what I think is going to end up happening. Yep, KB, I see your face on this, but stay with me for a second on this. Obviously, Arch is more than likely not going to come out of the draft for next year. He needs to come back for another full season. But I have seen enough in the second half of the season to say that the things that people were saying that they would think that they were seeing from Arch this season in terms of he's going to be the best quarterback in college football, he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. Obviously, that's not going to happen for 2026. But I do think that it is a strong possibility to happen in 2027 in terms of him being the number 1 overall pick in 2027. I've seen enough in the second half of the season to see the light bulb seems like it's going off. It's there. There's something there. If they continue to fix that offensive line in Texas, I think great things could be on the horizon for them. Another reason I say this, the Vikings, for the most part, they're a pretty well-ran organization. Do you honestly think that the Manning family is going to let Arch Manning possibly end up going to the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Las Vegas Raiders? The only reason they would let him go to the New Orleans Saints is because of the ties that their grandfather, Archie Manning, has to that team. That's the only reason they would consider something like that. Any of those other dumpster fires, do you honestly see them letting that happen? I don't. I think that with Kevin McConnell being there as the coach, the Vikings' history of being a great ran organization, and them needing to get Justin Jefferson, somebody who can really get him the football. Because I've seen Arch make more impressive throws already, KB, than I saw J.J. McCarthy ever throw at Michigan. There's something that's there with him. And I think that we're going to see it on full display next season. 2027, I think the Vikings will have Arch Manning behind center for them at quarterback.
That's fair. I'll give you that. Like I've been, even though I'm not like uberly impressed with the things that Arch Manning has done this season, I can kind of see where you get excited for him more than JJ McCarthy. Like just the I'm looking at more so with Arch Manning. I'm looking at the potential more than anything because I see it in flashes more than I ever saw in JJ McCarthy. I see the arm strength, I see the accuracy, I see the ability to move the pocket. I can see that. So with Kevin O'Connell, I could see him, being able to unlock some of the potential that we are looking for from Arch Manning. But yeah, I think that they need to just be done with this experiment.
Tone, what's your thoughts on my theory?
Um, I don't really because there's no really quarterbacks. Like I don't. It's same with the Falcons. Same situation. You don't. What do you do? JJ was First of all, I didn't see the hype around JJ McCarthy. I seen what happened against Georgia. I just don't understand why he was a high pick. Um, and they feel the wrath now because if it wasn't for Carson Wentz getting hurt, do we even see JJ McCarthy again this season? Carson Wentz didn't play too good, but you remember they was JJ's not feeling he's still not ready. They was putting up with Carson Wentz BS because it was worse with JJ. I just don't know if that young man is going to be a franchise quarterback. The quarterbacks don't come in and sit anymore. They have to play right away. But quarterback is a hard position in the NFL. It's a little different in college. We seen what Justin Fields did at Ohio State. What is Justin Fields in the NFL? You know what I'm saying? So it's just hard to pinpoint what a guy did in college and bring him to the NFL and then make them show those talents right away when it's okay to sit for a year or two and soak the game up. It's okay. But I just don't know um what the Vikings can do at this point. I don't really know if Arch Manning is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL either. I've watched that young man this year too, and some of those passes was off kill. So I don't know. Um, I'm not a real big fan of Arch. I'm not. I'm not on the bandwagon fan base of his uncles Peyton and Eli. I'm not. Uh, I just don't know if is Texas a right fit for him. He hasn't looked that good since he's been there. Do he transfer and go somewhere else? Do he? I mean, I just don't know if Steve is the guy for him to be that guy and get to the next level because he have struggled this year. The games that they should to beat the hell out these teams, they didn't. He struggled. It went to the last couple of possessions. I just don't. It seems like quarterbacks is the dual threat quarterbacks aren't coming out. Where are the guys? Where are the guys who run the ball? We see the guys that's running. What's the young man name that play for Indiana? What's his name?
Fernando Mendoza.
He's going to be the guy. He's going to be a guy. Um, um, that's another quarterback that copies Pat Mahomes. What's his name? Raiola.
Yeah, that's Dylan Raiola, but I know you don't think Dylan Raiola is going to be a guy now.
I don't, but his name has came up. That's what I'm saying. Like the quarterback going into the NFL is just not looking too bright right now. It's not a lot of guys coming out. Do you just try to work with these veterans? Like, for instance, Jacoby Brissett looked good for the Cardinals this year. They don't have the most complete roster, but Jacoby looks like a good quarterback out there. Is you see Kyler Murray got benched for him. So, and what's the future for Kyler Murray? It's a lot of things that can transpire like in the NFL in the next couple of years. Like I know I'd rather have Kyler Murray than JJ McCarthy. I know that much. So it's a lot that you gotta take with a grain of salt and look at your quarterback and be like, this guy may not be the guy for us. And I think JJ is one of those guys this season. I think Michael Penix is one of those guys this season. Um, and you just gotta figure it out. I don't know, man. I can't give you that answer because quarterback playing college isn't that good right now. So I can't even give you that.
No, it's been very underwhelming and disappointing to say the least. We're going to close out the quick hitters really quickly, and we got to wrap this up for part one of this with some NBA news, and that is the news that dropped here earlier today. The Clippers are officially shopping John Collins. Fellas, I know that, Nico Harrison has taken a lot of flack for that move for Luka from Dallas to LA, and rightfully so. That was an awful move. But can you honestly say that that move is worse right now at this point than Lawrence Frank packing up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and first round pick after first round pick after first round pick and sending them to OKC for Paul George and really not getting anywhere except for a Western Conference Finals one season and not too much more after that? People have been talking about Ty Lue needs to go. Kawhi needs to go. Lawrence Frank needs to go with them. He made these moves. The Clippers are one of the worst teams record-wise right now in the NFL, in NBA, excuse me. I don't see it getting any better. And they don't even own their first-round pick for the next draft. OKC owns that. The Clippers might honestly be bad enough to get AJ out of BYU, one of the Boozer boys at Duke, one of these top prospects, and they not even going to get them. OKC going to end up getting them. That, in my opinion, is the worst trade in NBA history. OKC already got one championship off of this. How many more are they going to get?
A couple more. Let's not even talk about Norman Powell. They let him look at Norman Powell in Miami this year. Looking like an all-star, averaging 25 points, shooting over 50% from three. How did you let a guy like that when you know Kawhi isn't healthy? You know Kawhi don't play games for you. How do you let a guy like Norman Powell just walk like that? I don't understand that. And he's having the best splits of his career with the Heat this season. That was a drop too.
I'm gonna say one thing. Like I think X. We've talked about this before. When it comes to regarding that trade, bad teams when they're desperate, they're liable to do anything because there has never been a time that I've looked at Paul George as being the best in the league. Like that's something I would give up for LeBron James. That type of package is something I would give up for Luka Doncic. Paul George, of all people, that's why I said if you're desperate enough and you can capitalize off of someone's desperation, which is exactly what OKC did, they went through their growing pains, but now they're seeing everything come to fruition of what they were trying to build. Sam Presti was trying to build this team organically over time, and he did. He built this team. So, like I said, the Clippers wanted to just make a splash. They wanted to compete with the Lakers. They wanted to create the buzz around the other LA team. And not only did they not do that, they failed to do that, they put themselves in not only draft hell, there's no way that somebody's looking at the Clippers as an attractive destination right now. They're not winning. I just don't see what there is. There's no bright spot for the Clippers right now. And the fact that they're shopping John Collins, who's another young guy who's pretty much can't find his niche in the league, like it just goes to show that bad franchises continue to do bad things. The Clippers are a bad franchise. They've historically been a bad franchise, and nothing's really changed. Them having that one Western Conference Finals appearance a couple of years ago didn't move me at all because even in that series, like we just knew that this is probably the ceiling for them. This is exactly as high as they're going to go. They plateaued at the Western Conference Finals, and that was it. If they couldn't make it with the Lob City Clippers, I knew that them having a two-headed monster of a broken Kawhi Leonard and a so-so Paul George was not going to move me. So, yeah, this is just all bad. Blow it all up, if you ask me.
And one other thing that I do want to make note of when it comes to this, too. Clippers fans were clamoring 2 weeks ago for John Collins to end up being the starter. And now he's talked about being shopped around the league. Like you said, KB, bad franchises make bad choices. And the Clippers, they're just a bad franchise. It was masking tape for a few years with folks thinking, okay, they're well ran now. You know, the late Jerry West was there. He was an advisor for them. But no, bad franchises make bad choices. And Paul George already had a pretty decorated injury history when they made that trade for him, too, which also didn't make any sense. And it also should be noted, they had a chance 2 seasons ago to somewhat try to salvage some of this mess, too. They could have traded PG, and they could have traded Kawhi, and they could have tried to get some picks back in return for them so that they could at least start some form of a rebuilding process. No, they chose to continue to go all in with what they had, and they've added older player after older player to this operation. And KB, you know I got a name for this. Tone, I don't know if you know I got this name. The Frederick Douglass All-Stars. That is what the Clippers have built for this year. You got an old broken down Chris Paul who confirmed that this will be his final season just a few days ago. I honestly thought he said that earlier in the summer. Nick Batum can't do too much for you anymore. Bradley Beal he's cooked. He's done.
Yeah,
so why did you cut Powell then? Like, why did you cut Norman if your team is old? You wouldn't replace Powell with John Collins, a guy that can't dribble, can't bring the ball up the court, can't ISO.
Can't
I just
post.
didn't understand it. Can't post, can't do.
And we would know that all too well, us being from the Atlanta area and seeing those years he had with the Hawks. Look, we got to wrap up part 1 of this, but we got to come back with part 2 because the Cowboys, man, they're making things a little interesting. It's XKB, our guest Tone. We'll be right back.